again, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. Recently, I did a tutorial on the Irish net stitch, a lovely knitting stitch that I really quite enjoyed. However, there were a lot of comments saying, can this be done as far as crocheting goes? And, well, in my searching, I think I found something that is somewhat comparable, actually, and just as simple. So, today, I give you the crossed stitch. Yes, double crochets crisscrossed over each other. However, you're not doing a front and back post double crochet. Actually, it's even simpler than that. And it's only a 2-row repeat. So it's a little lacy, but not overtly so. And it is reversible. Yes, extra bonus right there. For this particular piece, I used Lion Brand's Pound of Love in the colorway of Quartz. And today, going to be using the same yarn in the colorway of Elephant Gray. And I think you guys are really going to like this. Now, this would be awesome for a scarf because it is double-sided. It's reversible. A blanket, a wrap, what have you. And I think you guys are really going to like this. Now, before anyone asks, yes, I am working on a shawl pattern incorporating this. It's actually a top-down shawl pattern. I'm getting there. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, first things first, the base chain. You're going to need a base chain of an even number of stitches, plus an additional 2. So I did, this was, I believe, 14 chains, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, yes. So that's easy enough. And so you can make this piece as wide or as narrow as you want to. And so get your base chain ready and, well, let's get started. Row 1. Okay, now admittedly, this is perhaps the trickiest row, but that's usually the case with a lot of crochet stitches. So into the 5th and the 4th stitch from the hook, that's where we're going to be working. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so into the 5th stitch from the hook, double crochet. There we are. By the way, I'm using a size J 6mm hook. You can, of course, use whatever works best for you. So I did my double into the 5th chain from the hook. Now we need to go into the 4th chain from the hook. So we're going to go around the back, and it's not as bad as you might think. So going, after yarning over, going around the back, and then into that chain. Now, like I said, this is the most fiddly and finicky of the rows. After this, it's pretty easy, quite frankly. So just double crochet. So technically, it is in the 4th, and they're crisscrossed over each other. Okay, and yes, we're going to do this a couple of times. So then we went into this one, so we need to go into the next 2. So skipping that chain, going into the next with a double crochet. And then we're going to go around the back and into that chain. Now, a way that you can do it is you can sort of tilt your work upward, however works best for you. I found that actually just going and trundling through is the way to go. So going to do a couple of these, and the subsequent rows are really quite simple. So again, skipping that first one, going into the next with a double. in and into that chain. Also, I find that it helps if you do your doubles just a little bit loosely, because we're only doing doubles, we're not doing trebles. Previously, when I'd done the Celtic weave stitch, we were using trebles when crossing over our stitches. This one, no, it's just doubles. And it does take a little bit of practice to get used to. All right, and then we've got 3 left because we worked into this chain. We've got 3 left, so in these last 2, skipping that one, going into the next. And then going into the one that we skipped. There we are, and then double crochet into that last chain. There we are. Pretty already, but it's going to get even better. So let's proceed on to row 2. Row 2. So basically, the repeat is rows 2 and 3, ending on, I would say, a row 3, and you'll see why. So for row 2, start by chaining up 2 for our first double crochet. Some people, they chain up 3. Personally, I find that it becomes a little billowy on the side, and a chaining of 2 works just fine. So after that, skipping this first stitch, going to the next one with a double crochet. We're not crossing over yet. The reason why is so that our crossings can be offset. So then into these next 2 stitches, we're going to cross these. So skipping the first, going into the second with a double. And then around the back, going into the one that we skipped. And this is, like I said, this is a lot easier than the chain row. See? And turning your work as you work those stitches does help. So into the next grouping of 2, skipping that first, going into the second. And then going into the skipped one, yarning over, going around the back, and into that stitch. And then skipping the first, going into that second. And then going into the skipped one. Sort of turning and folding our work so that the stitches are a little bit easier to see. Nothing wrong with that. Into the next grouping of 2, skip that one, going into the next. And then going into the skipped one. There we are. And we have technically 2 stitches left. We have this one here and this one at the very, very end. So I'm going to double crochet into this one and then at the very, very edge here. There we are. Ta-da! All right, so starting off with the 2 doubles, finishing off with 2 doubles with our crosses in between. There. Row 3. Okay, so row 3, we're going to start just as we did row 2. Chain up 2. And turn the work. Now, in the last row, we did 2 doubles. Right now, we're just going to hop right in to doing our crossings. So, this one you always skip, this very, very first one. Don't go into that one. Into these next 2, we're going to work this third one and the second one, so to speak. So, skipping that one, going into this one. And you don't have to go around the post. No, just go into the top of that stitch. Like so. And then working into this stitch right here. Yarning over, around the back, and sometimes it's easier than others. There, right there. And then the next grouping of 2. Now, what I've also found that helps is when you're doing your double crochets, as opposed to going in as, this is how I would normally do it, pulling up that loop and then just going right in all tightly and so forth. Actually, I find that what helps, perhaps I should have mentioned this earlier, I do apologize. I find that what helps is after yarning over and you pull up your loop, pull it up a little bit. You know, give it some breathing room so that it compensates for the fact that it is a double crochet, not a treble crochet. Same thing with the second stitch of each pairing. So going in and just pull that loop up just a little bit. We're not making a puff stitch, but it does help to give it some breathing room so that your stitches aren't scrunched together. And if you do that, you might have a problem with some buckling and some curling, which we would like to avoid, I'm sure. So again, just around the back, and then into that stitch that we skipped. And then the next grouping of 2, skip that one, going into the next. And then we've got these last 2, and then we'll double crochet into the top of our first double crochet from the previous row. And yes, it is a chaining of 2. So it's, as opposed to going into the third chain from the bottom, it's the second chain from the bottom. So let's do these 2 first here. Now, of course, if you are more comfortable chaining up 3 in the traditional fashion, more power to you. Quite all right, to each their own. There we go. And then double crochet into that second chain from the bottom. There we are. Honestly, I think this creates a really nice, clean edge. Now, this isn't, I would say, always applicable. However, more often than not, I have found that it is. So, that is row 3. And the reason why I would recommend ending on a row 3 is because it is symmetrical to the row that we started with. The row 2, not so much, but it still works. So let's do a repeat, shall we? Okay. Row 2 for the repeat. You know me, I like to be thorough. So start off by chaining up 2 for your first double crochet. Turn the work into the second stitch right here, double crochet. And then into our first grouping of 2, skip the first, double into the second, yarn over, around the back, and in. Now, for those of you that are curious, have I tried this using front and back post double crochets? I have. Front and back post doubles as well as trebles. I have tried it. I wasn't quite pleased with the results, though, to be perfectly honest. But I have tried it because I did want to be thorough in my investigation. Yeah, I wasn't quite jazzed with the process. It worked, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. So sticking with doubles, I think, works out just fine. There we are. Just a few more to go. Got this pairing, and then we have our 2 doubles at the end. And of course, this is one of those great stitches for some mindful stitching, where you can get lost in your own thoughts and not have to worry about the pattern. So, last 2, double in each. And then again, remember, into that second chain from the bottom. That's where we put our last double crochet. There we go. And so that is the end of row 2 for the repeat. Last, but certainly not least, row 3 for the repeat. Start by chaining up 2 and turning your work. Okay, always skipping this one at the very edge. Into the next 2, double crochet past that skipped one, and then go back into the skipped one. Into the next 2, skip that first, going into the second. Go back into the skipped one. Next grouping of 2, skip the first, going into the second. And as you can see, I'm having a bit less of a difficult time since we have some fabric to work with. It's always that first row that is so persnickety, don't you think? So, next grouping of 2. Now, would you say persnickety or persnippety? What would you say? I say persnickety. There we are. And then one more grouping of 2, and then our final double crochet at the end. There. And then around and through. Pull up that loop. Give it some breathing room. And then double crochet at the end. And of course, if you are of a mind to, fringe, tassels, what have you, go crazy. Jazz it up. There we go. So, there we have it. the crossed stitch. Absolutely love it, and I hope you guys do too. And if you did like this video, please give a little thumbs up button down below, because you know that I appreciate your appreciation as always. And stay tuned for more, because whether it's crocheting, knitting, audiobook narrations, origami, cooking, baking, I like to dabble, what can I say? And of course, my other YouTube channel, Fiber Spider Games, where I do video game playthrough and commentary. It's in the description box down below. Check it out. And you know what to do until next time. I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and please stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now, everybody, and have a great, great day.